Joining me now is my good friend Geoff Magliocchetti to talk about the latest and greatest in New York basketball, including the NBA and WNBA. Geoff, welcome back. One league is in full swing, the other is in the offseason, but it's an important time of year for both.
Absolutely. We're seeing the New York Knicks season full swing, NBA Cup proceedings coming up, and the New York Liberty, of course, still working through what's going to be their first ever postseason championship defense. The first hurdle of that coming on Friday night with the expansion draft, in which the Golden State Valkyries, newest team in the league, formed a roster of 11 women, picking one player from an unprotected list of all but one team this week. So very interesting to see what's going to transpire there. The Valkyries' first visit to Atlantic Avenue over to Barclays Center will be on May 27th, May 27th and May 29th. And New York did lose a certain player in that, losing six-woman Kayla Thornton in the proceedings.
Well, let's get on to that. These expansion drafts, they're always risky with the way they work. How big of a loss is she for the Liberty, and how does the team now fill that void?
Mike, the ironic part about forming a quote-unquote super team, I know the Liberty have kind of strayed away from that concept. They kind of strayed away from that term a little bit. But the ironic part of forming such an assembly of all-stars is that you only go as far or get eliminated quickly as far as your second unit takes you. It's all about depth. And Kayla Thornton was New York's Death Star in a way. This season, she was always known as a defensive stalwart in a way, was a gritty player, really clawed her way, really carved a role for herself in the modern WNBA. She was an undrafted player out of a mid-major school like UTEP, comes in and forms what's going to become a decade-long career for herself out there. About 6 seasons in Dallas out there, 1 season each in New York and Washington coming into this season. But this time around, she really played a major role in what New York did this time around. She hit 45 three-pointers, which is a new career high for her, and she really developed a trust among the Liberty brass. For example, she played over 6 minutes a game in the fourth quarter this year. So while she really didn't make her impact in the starting five, though she did have 11 starts this year when Courtney Vandersloot was on bereavement leave, she did play. She was a major part of closing fives. And this time around, her defensive rating of 93.1 off the bench was fourth among WNBA reserves this season, with at least 20 games and 15 minutes per game. She was behind. One of the players she was behind, in fact, as a matter of fact, was Leonie Phoebish, who appears to be a mainstay in the starting five moving forward. So how New York replaces this player, this spark off the bench, this pace changer, this trendsetter on and off the floor. She really developed a strong rapport with both fans and her teammates. So this is a big loss for New York. So but the good news is there are plenty of options to kind of step in. The free agency list, one player I have my name on in particular is Victoria Vivians, who had a really strong year off the bench, really strong defensive outputs out there. That's someone who could perhaps step in for Kayla. New York also has the similarly skilled Rebecca Gardner at their disposal. Gardner did not play this season due to an injury, but considering what New York gave up for her, a decent-sized draft haul, and they have acknowledged her at championship events this year, it's clear that New York does have a plan for Rebecca Gardner moving forward. So while this is undoubtedly a huge loss for New York, I think they'll be able to recover with the resources available to them, especially with the way General Manager Jonathan Kolb has strategically worked his way through and formed a strong plan with head coach Sandy Brondell. So interesting to see how New York replaces their sixth woman now that she's in the Bay Area. They're getting a good one out there.
Let's talk about the Knicks' great run over the last 12 games. They're 9-3, improving to 14-9 on the season. Hasn't all been perfect, but talk about what you've seen with the team over that time.
Yeah, is it ever perfect when it comes to the New York Knicks, unfortunately? But, things are trending in the right direction for New York. I think that's undeniable. They get out to a mediocre start, 5-6, but this 9-3 stretch over the past dozen games, I think this is more what we expected out of New York this time around. And we're seeing growing chemistry with this group. Having said that, there are a few glaring issues that, could stand as a little troubling out there. New York is a team that plays up or down to its competition. And I think we see that. They have some fantastic wins over the belt under the stretch. For example, there's an 18-point win out in Denver that was only so close because the Knicks kind of called off their dogs a little bit in the late stages. There is also this week's big win over Orlando, a surging Magic team that was really doing some great things without their franchise face Paolo Banchero, and that clinched them the group win in NBA Cup pool play. So there are some strong wins that New York has under its belt right now. But for every nice little win over a Denver, over an Orlando, there's a heartbreaking loss to, say, a Utah, or as we saw on Saturday night, a heartbreaking loss to Detroit. And the Knicks are a team, you know what kind of game it's going to be from the get-go. This season, New York is 3-9. All 9 of their losses have come when they do not lead after the first quarter. New York has also, had a little trouble guarding the 3 out there. So far this season, they have allowed teams to shoot at least 50% in 3 games this season, tied for the most with the Brooklyn Nets and the Los Angeles Lakers. The Knicks are 0-3 in such games. It gets you to think, is Mitchell Robinson perhaps the absent, the underrated, the unsung MVP of this team? We look at their stats over the first 9 games of the year. New York's defensive rating, rebounding percentage, and offensive rebounds per game took tumbles this time around. Without Robinson this year, rebounding percentage, they went from 1st to 12th over the first 9. Offensive rebounds per game, 2nd to 20th. Defensive rating, 2nd to 21st. Now, to their credit, they are developing chemistry. They are starting to, fill in those holes a little bit. Karl Anthony Towns has done real well. Precious Achiuwa has returned from injury and played as advertised. And Jalen Brunson, of course, can't say enough about him. Josh Hart is turning into a triple-double threat on a nightly basis. So guys are starting to step up. But they are missing one of their top defenders in there, one of their top interior defenders, someone who gives them a bit of a hidden edge, a bit of a forgotten edge in today's NBA, which kind of loves to play at the top of the key, that worships the concept known as the three-pointer. Mitchell Robinson he's part of an endangered species in the sense that, he's one of the rare centers who is still employed to, camp out under the rim, get your rebound, stop drivers, stop guys on the inside. He's one of the rare traditional center types. Nowadays, you see centers have to try to shoot. He's not like that. He's a hidden gem in there, a weapon from a bygone era that the Knicks really take advantage of. And they're kind of starting to miss him a little bit. It's because, they have fallen behind Cleveland and Boston. They have these not so great losses that, tarnish their resume a little bit. So they can't wait to get him back. He's expected back due January, but I think that the Knicks are starting to get it together a little bit. They are starting to find some form of offensive rhythm and offensive chemistry. It's going to be all about the defense at this point. Mikal Bridges, I believe, said after Saturday's loss to Detroit, he said they have to communicate better. Tom Thibodeau said this is going to be an opportunity now, and the Knicks do have major opportunities ahead. As it stands right now, throughout the rest of the month of December, New York plays only one team that is currently stationed in an automatic top 6 playoff spot. That game coming on December 27th against the aforementioned Orlando Magic. So there is a major opportunity for the Knicks to, build a nice solid cushion over 500, get back to what they envisioned at the start of the year. And, again, their headliners are taking control. Towns and Brunson speak for themselves. OG Anunoby, he has added a new offensive aspect to this game. So I think that, there are good times ahead for this team, but they can't take anyone or anything for granted.
Now, tonight the Knicks take on the Raptors, who started playing poorly right around the time the Knicks started to turn things around. What do you think we can expect in tonight's game?
Yeah, this is an intriguing matchup, the only game on the NBA schedule tonight, I believe. But Toronto is a team that's currently in the throes of a rebuild right now, but you clearly see progress. That the surge ahead for the Knicks, like you mentioned, was brought about by the December 30th trade when New York obtained Achiuwa, obtained Anunoby in exchange for R.J. Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley. So far, I think it's safe to say that the trade has done its intended purpose on all sides. You're not seeing the results in Toronto right now because, they might still be a year or two away. But the Raptors are showing signs of getting it together. And this does have some semblance of yet another trap game for New York. Again, December is populated with games like these. The Knicks should be favored in most, if not all, of the games they have on the road ahead. But Toronto is an interesting case. They've won 5 of their last 10. They're closing out a 5-game homestand that includes wins over Indiana and Miami. So what's going to be interesting tonight, you have to keep an eye, of course, on RJ Barrett because, he's in the midst of a career season. He is doing his intended purpose. A return home has really worked in his favor. So going to have to keep an eye on him. Scotty Barnes is another one. Grady Dick. All these guys are young players who are steadily rising and working their intended purpose, and they'll be looking to make a statement against an elite divisional opponent because you never know. Because Knicks fans travel well, so you never know what the crowd's going to be like out there tonight in Ontario. One player to really keep an eye on for Toronto is Jakob Poeltl, who is averaging over 16 points and over 11 rebounds a game, including 4 offensive rebounds per game. We talk about the loss of Robinson. The Knicks struggled mightily on the boards on Saturday against Detroit. They did not have Karl Anthony Towns. He was a late scratch due to a back injury, and they lost the rebounding battle. The margin was minus 12 in that game. So that's a tough break for the Knicks, and they have to step up a little bit. You see guys in there. Achua did a great job. He had a team best 10 rebounds. He and Josh Hart combined for 16 of the 31 Knick rebounds. Hart unfortunately got himself ejected in the penultimate minute of that game. So frustrating night for Knicks all around. So the Knicks, if Towns is out tonight, he is currently listed as questionable on the injury report. If Towns is out tonight, this is a major opportunity for Achua. This is also a major opportunity for Jericho Sims, who got the start on Saturday night in place of Towns, but lasted only, I believe, 6 or 9 minutes before he was replaced. He played 6 minutes, was a -9 on the scoreboard. So the Knicks kind of went with Achua and the rookie Ariel Huckporty for the rest of the night. So this is a big opportunity with Poeltl in the game. This is a big opportunity for the Knicks interior to show what they're made of, to show that they can adapt, and to show that they can recover. Again, we kind of see where each Knick game is going in the first quarter. All 9 of their losses have come when they are not leading after the first. Let's see some adaptability. Let's see some recovery. It's a brilliant opportunity tonight against some familiar faces. Quickly will not play, though. He has been limited to 3 games so far this season.
And beyond Monday, let's talk about Wednesday. The Knicks are playing against the Atlanta Hawks in the quarterfinals of the NBA Cup. Now, the NBA Cup is still pretty new. I believe it started last season.
Sure.
Can you talk about how the NBA Cup works and the value it brings to the Knicks and the league as a whole?
For sure. I think what's interesting about the NBA Cup, after the initial hype of its debut edition, we're still trying to figure out its true purpose in a way. Now, less than charitable interpretations of this could say, oh, this is just something to pry eyes away from the NFL. It's something to give the NBA's early December games a little bit of meaning out there. But the Knicks can make this work to their advantage. The NBA Cup's intended purpose, no one really knows exactly what it is at this point. Again, it's to add a little, in the way I see it, it's to add a little bit of juice in the way because we're seeing the NFL take over the December slate a little bit. The NFL is this close to perhaps taking over Christmas from the NBA if they haven't done so already. So this is an interesting case the NBA could do. They can add some early juice to their early schedule. But beyond that intended purpose, I think there's a good opportunity for the Knicks here. They can make this work to their advantage. The NBA Cup, in a way, can help teams that are, quote unquote, not ready for primetime players in a sense. It can give them, experience in meaningful games. The Knicks, of course, are a franchise that hasn't reached a mere conference final in over 20 years, much less the NBA finals, which they haven't won in over 50. So the Knicks are in no spot. The Knicks franchise as a whole is in no spot to kind of deny any championship opportunities afforded to them, no matter how superficial they could be. The NBA Cup, in a way, can be a kind of a throat-clearing gesture in a way, as if to say, hey, keep an eye on us. We're going to be a problem come spring. This is the start of something big. I think we saw that last year with the Indiana Pacers, who worked their way through Boston, worked their way through Milwaukee in the Eastern Conference rounds, and gave the Los Angeles Lakers a bit of a strong challenge in the final out in Las Vegas. Now, having said that, the NBA Cup, it almost loses that purpose of, being a showcase for not ready for primetime players when the most popular franchise and two of the more popular players in LeBron James and Anthony Davis kind of, take over and win that. It loses its intended purpose in that way. But we're seeing a lot of teams come in and use this as a strong experience. It's a time to build chemistry when the spotlight's a little brighter. We look on the other side of the bracket. We have the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're kind of coming off their disappointments last season. Winning the top seed in the Western Conference, but falling to the second round. In the East, the Knicks will play an Atlanta Hawks team trying to claw its way back towards the front with Trae Young and undergoing a bit of resurgence. Time to maybe perhaps exercise the demons of 2021 out there. The Bucks are another one. They got off to a slow start last year. They're leading. They are at the top of the bracket in the in-season competition right now. So they got off to a slow start, but there is a major opportunity for them to make a statement, and time to make a statement for the Orlando Magic as well. They, of course, clinched the 4th seed, but unfortunately they're dealing with injuries right now. Banchero is still out, and they just lost Franz Wagner indefinitely. So the Knicks have an opportunity here. It's an attempt to build chemistry under somewhat brighter lights out there. It can give them some sort of championship feeling, something they haven't felt in a long, long time. Far too long for a franchise as proud of the Knicks. Now, I'm not saying there's going to be a parade down the Canyon of Heroes. I'm not saying that the banner will be, worshipped like Knicks fans worship those of Willis Reed and Walt Clyde Frazier or the 73-70 championship banner. It won't be anything like that. There won't be any there won't be too much pomp and circumstance behind this. Having said that, this is a brilliant opportunity for the Knicks. They can make the somewhat confusing concept of an NBA in-season tournament work in their favor. So it's a big opportunity for them, and I'm eager to see how they respond to it.
Geoff Magliocchetti, I love the insight as always. Thanks so much for taking the time, pal.
Mike, thank you so much. Appreciate your time and insight. Keep up the good work over there.
Thanks, pal. You as well. Head over to ONNJ.com for the latest news and sports anytime.